Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, you mentioned a vaccine that's 100% effective for AI, and I'm wondering if that might be in reference to a company out of Iowa?
It's not. It's a different company. It's actually the seed strain actually, Congressman, has been done by, I believe, by our researchers in concert with another company, but there's nothing to prevent Harris vaccine from participating in this once we get it figured out.
And I'm hopeful there will be an open competition to that, and we can bring all the technology to the table, and I appreciate your words on that.
The key here, I think, is for whatever entity gets to it first, being willing to provide the licensing arrangements and we will absolutely facilitate that, because no one company, this is my belief, I don't know if this is right or not, but no one company is going to be able to produce as much as we need, as quickly as we need it. Hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of folks working collaboratively together. We stockpile enough so that if this thing does hit and hits us hard, we're in a position to respond quickly.
There's much to be said about vaccine, and I appreciate your comments on this. Also, you referenced phosphorus, which caught my interest in the discussion with Mr. Yoho. And I happen to have gone to watch a demonstration project in Storm Lake, Iowa, right before the 4th of July. That was taking out, by that demonstration, more than 99% of the soluble phosphorus that was suspended in the effluent that was at the discharge of the plant. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that there's new technology that's emerging here that looks like it could effectively solve the phosphorus problem that we have. And so this opportunity, I mentioned that, and I didn't know if that was something that you were aware of.
I wasn't aware of that. What I was referring to was the use of phosphorus at the base of a tree that's been hit by this citrus greening. It somehow has an impact on minimizing the consequences of citrus greening.
I will get that information to you and ask you to pass that along to your people that will want to be focused on it. And then another piece of this, there's so much to be said about bird flu, and I wanted to make sure that the committee is aware and the public's aware of how big this is. I'll say I know of no livestock disease problem that has met ever in the history of this country that's met the magnitude of this avian influenza that we have, and I'm open to any rebuttal to that. However, into that, we're looking at nationwide 48 million birds that have been affected by this, all dead. 75% of the layers in the country, Iowa. 92% of the layers in Iowa in the 4th Congressional District. That's my district. And so this is devastating to a very localized region in the country. And it began in the Turkey region in Minnesota as far as the Midwestern component of this is concerned. And I know that USDA deployed people up there quickly. By time it hit in Iowa, my numbers are about 47 turkey locations were positive before it spilled over into 2 turkey locations in Iowa. And then from there it hit the large laying operation near Harris, Iowa, and Osceola County. That's when I think it became such a large epidemic that it was for a time out of control. And so I wanted to speak with you about the things that need to be prepared for another event that may happen. And the focus on the East Coast, I'm glad to see that here. I think it's very appropriate that they do that. But the resources that you've had, I think you testified here that they are at least adequate to this moment, and I'm happy to be supportive if you need more resources. I would want to bring to your attention some of the things like the emergency response component of this, the level of urgency that I thought I should have seen, more in line with a flood or a natural disaster, a hurricane, perhaps tornadoes in too small a magnitude for this. I thought that level of urgency should have been higher. The chain of command, so that we know what that order of command is and who we can communicate with. I'd ask you to take a look at that. Maybe look at the Corps of Engineers approach on how they bring a lot of resources to play under a military-style chain of command, so there can be a quicker response. You mentioned the disposal of this. That is a big problem. It was the biggest problem from the beginning. I'm very troubled by what we had to do. And some of that is composting birds outside in windrows, yes, mixed with compost material, yes, an attempt to cover them with sawdust or corn stover, but still exposed to birds that can carry that disease elsewhere. There are a number of, the epidemiological study that is at this point not completely complete is going to be, I think, a key to how we bring the biosecurity to bear, which might well be the key as to whether we can set up something maybe under RMA for an income interruption type of insurance for our producers, not only the turkey people, but especially the layers. So there are a lot of components of this that I would like to weigh in on, and I'll say this, is it your counsel I should write a series of op-eds on this and have that talk, or is there a better method that we can convey some of these things so that the next disaster, if it hits, pray it doesn't, these things that I've been in a position to see also can be implemented for solutions?
Mr. Chair, can I respond? Well, I think the first step in the process, Congressman, would be for any ideas and thoughts you have to be willing to share them at the meeting that's going to take place next week in Iowa, which is designed to basically get people to discuss this openly and fully, number one. Number two, I agree with you in terms of the incident command process. That's why we are setting up a much different system. I agree with you that disposal is an issue, but of course, as you know, it's not just dictated by the federal folks. It's state folks are involved, and local folks are involved, and landfill people are involved. That's why I've instructed our team to begin thinking about where could this potentially happen in states that have not yet been hit. Where are the landfills? Can we begin having conversations with landfill operators now to acquaint them with what this is all about, why it's not a risk for them to participate in disposal? Disposal issues, absolutely, no question that's an issue, and that's why we're looking at ways in which we can do a better job of that. The EPI study is going to be supplemented, I think, by next week. We may learn additional steps in terms of biosecurity, and I think long-term, the issue of an insurance product or disaster program certainly makes a lot of sense. So there's an awful lot of work that's been done, going to be done. If you have input, more than happy to receive it beginning next week.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.